Hi, out there. Just realized that light behind me is really bright. I'm going to turn it off. Hello, out there in the world. I haven't done any live streaming in a long time, and it feels as weird as I remember it feeling. So, yeah, I'm going to kind of give people a second to show up and hang out for a second, and get settled in. Drop some like, if you would like to, if you feel so inspired, please, write in the comments or whatever, and say hi. Let me know you're here because I can see numbers, but I cannot see names or faces. Um, you may hear some jingling in the back, and that is because I have this little kitten who is playing with a jingly toy, and I'm very happy he's playing with the jingly toy because it means he's not clawing on my leg. Um, so there's that. Hi, okay, hi. I see one person in the comments, BK. I don't know who BK is, but hi, BK. I've also been looking forward to this all week. Actually, my therapist and I had a conversation, and I was like, I feel a little bit, bad because I didn't plan an in-person book launch because, like a responsible self-published author would. But she was like, you've got time to do that. I was like, you're right. So here we are doing it here. Um, Happy Friday. I'm not going to say happy Veterans Day. Veterans Day is not a happy day for me. A happy Armistice Day, um, because that's what this day originally started as. And yeah, and I think it would be great if it could go back to being Armistice Day, a day that we think about the cost of war and, do our best to not keep warring if possible. Hi. Okay. Cool. Hey. Okay. It's so nice to see friends trickling in. As it rains outside. Uh, and I'm gonna kind of just I'm gonna keep waiting for just a moment because I know I'm always late for everything. So I assume um, many of my friends also like to be late for things or don't like to be, but just are. Haha. um, as you will discover when you read this book that I have right here. Oh, hi. Sorry, I'm gonna try and stay focused here. So, but hi, please do keep dropping comments. I'm gonna not be ADHD and for a minute and try to focus on talking and then go into the things. There will also be question and answer time at the end, and that will be super fun for me because I like hearing from y'all. Um, and yeah, so yeah, when you read the book you will discover some of the reasons why I have an aversion to punctuality these days, um, and why I have a lot of empathy for other people who do. But that aside, welcome, welcome to everyone who's here, and welcome to the official launch of my book that I fucking wrote called If You Ain't Cheatin', You Ain't Tryin', and Other Lessons I Learned in the Army. Um, it took me a long time to write this, and I still kind of can't believe that I have managed to do this in the midst of all of the insanity of the last few years, especially. But just I can't believe that it happened. I know plenty of people um, who haven't made it this long after war, um, and I'm happy to be one of the people who is still here and who has managed to, pull some good or at least some educational material out of my experience. So yeah. Um, and while I'm kind of, sipping my tea and giving folks a second to trickle in, um, if you have any questions about anything that you would like to throw in the comments already, feel free. And and if yeah, I'm trying to think here. But yeah, there's going to be plenty of time for that after. I'm going to read a few little selections, not super long, just a few. Um, and then kind of open it up because I've been working on this project very like much by myself, other than working with fellow writers for during the last few years, as I got it into sort of you know somewhat of legible status. And yeah, so as I got it into that shape, I was working with um, friends and fellow writers who became dear friends at Naropa at the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics in Boulder, Colorado. Um, and and some of you are here. Hi, Drew, and who are some of the others people who were, either in my classes or who I've worked with after the fact. Chris Chady, if you're out there, yeah, so folks who have, just given me a lot of really valuable feedback and help in editing. I did the whole really I micromanaged this project, um, because I did not wanna trust another editor because I was a very anal retentive editor in the Army, as I go into in one of these stories, um, one of the stories within these pages. And, and so I decided I wanted to do it on my own with friends, and I decided to self publish because I did not want to sit on this for years while I convinced somebody that I was marketable when I know I'm not. Cheers. um, so, yeah, I don't know if Aaron Toole is out there. Maybe, maybe not. But Aaron Toole is a dear veteran friend of mine who made me this cup when I started school at Berkeley, Cal Veterans Group there. And so I drink from this a lot actually, but I thought that would be fitting. This photo of me was taken in, um, gosh, I want to say in 2007 or 8, um, in Iraq on my second deployment and final deployment. So, sipping tea, cheers to all of you. Thank you so much for being here. Um, and yeah, and I can't wait to hear what you think of this. The ordered a if you ordered a copy, they'll get to you. The hard copy will be there soon. The ebook and Kindle version and all that, they're available right now. So if you prefer to do that, then that is an option. And yeah, so what do you think, y'all? Should I read a little bit of this book? I think maybe I should. I'm gonna imagine in my mind that you were all just like, "Woo," or respectful applause. And I am going to plan an in-person event at some point. One of the ways my PTSD manifests itself is that I am not super good at planning events or long-term things. I just do things and they get done when they get done. So if anybody out there is the kind of person who's good at organizing stuff and wants to help me with it, it'll happen faster that way. Um, yeah. So, without further ado, I am going to read you some of my words that are now on these pages. I can't believe it. Holy fucking shit. um, this first bit is It's from the chapter in which I'm in basic training and I'm learning some very important lessons. And I mean, this whole book is me learning very important lessons, TM. Um, but it started in basic training, really. That's when a lot of the profound ones happened. And I just want to, just as an aside here, I don't know if anybody who I was in basic training with happens to be on the out there in the ether world, um, in the internet land right now. If you are, feel free to say hi. I Some of my basic training friends are some of my favorite people still. And I just heard from one of my old army buddies, Holly, who has been reading and said this and says that she is remembering some of her um, basic training and general like and AIT, advanced individual training stories, also. So I think that is a fun, unexpected little side effect that has happened now. I get to hear all my friends' stories now that I'm sharing mine. Hooray. If any of you out there have been in military training and want to drop little comments um, into the box there about your personal, experiences, feel free to do that. But it might make it hard to listen. I don't know. If you're a good multitasker, do that. Um, a lot. I remember how I'm not a good event planner. A lot of this is just coming to my mind right now. How did I manage to finish this, y'all? I have no fucking idea. Woo! All right, here we go. This is from the chapter that I titled. What did I title it? What did I title it? Oh, I just titled it If You Ain't Cheatin'. Bam. One more week to go, and it's finally time for the grenade range. I'm exquisitely excited to throw a real grenade, but I do my best to stay outwardly impassive. It's an unfamiliar look for me, but I think I'm pulling it off. At least until I trip over the grenade pit wall and fall flat on my face, Kevlar helmet smashing not only my glasses, but also my nose. With nose blood gushing down the front of my flak jacket, still clutching my grenade to my chest, squinting in the general direction of the bewildered drill sergeant waiting there, I answer with an enthusiastic, "Roger, drill sergeant," when he asks if I still want to complete the training. I pull the pin, lob the grenade in mostly the right direction, barely far enough to qualify. The drill sergeant rolls his eyes. I can tell we're both thinking the same thing. The Army is obviously desperate for recruits. At least, I console myself, this is a different mistake than the last time I got the eye roll. That time was in the beginning of week one. The instructions were to keep one pair of running shoes in our rooms and leave another pair in the duffel bag containing our civilian clothes to be locked in storage. My stomach had dropped as I remembered I'd failed to get an extra pair of sneakers before leaving home. Standing in line to turn in my bag, fear set in. Would this possibly egregious error be discovered and called out? I'd crept toward the front of the line in a state of near paralysis, knowing they weren't checking each soldier's bag as they went along, but the instructions were clear. One daggum pair of daggum running shoes in each daggum bag. South Carolina. And I'm not good at accents all the time, but South Carolina, side note there. And the idea had crossed my mind that the bags might be checked later, revealing my thoughtless indiscretion. In reform school, the punishment for hiding a mistake was far more severe than for making a mistake in the first place. Students who were deemed dishonest were often forced to begin every sentence, "Hello, my name is blank, and I'm a liar." Even in the first week of basic, I knew that kind of shaming wasn't the Army's way, but I was new enough to this game to still be heart-thumpingly afraid that the quote unquote Army values I had just been given to memorize, including integrity, the I, and the awkwardly helpful acronym leadership, spelled LDR ship, might be enforced in some similarly dramatic fashion. Nearing the front of the line, I decided integrity was the way to go. Amid the din of the concrete walled room full of irritated privates, I'd stepped up to the fierce faced Drill Sergeant Maxwell, taken a deep breath, and stepped forward. Drill Sergeant, I only have one pair of running shoes. He'd stopped throwing bags into piles, turned, and stared at me. No, I internally screamed, bracing myself for a verbal beating. But instead of yelling at me, he'd just let out a long sigh. Soldier, let me tell you something. Tongue tied, I waited without breathing for him to continue. Our eyes locked. He lowered his voice, speaking now only to me. Soldier, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. You got me? Tongue tied, I nodded. And if you get caught, you ain't trying hard enough. Now give me that duffel bag and get the fuck out of here. It was the most useful lesson I'd never learned before about life, the military, and everything, and he'd laid it on me in less time than it took to lace my boots. It uprooted reform school and displaced the lectures I'd always received from teachers, and well-meaning parents, teachers, pastors, and well-meaning mentors on honesty and the right way to live. A deep-rooted proclivity toward integrity might be the right way to live, I realized, but it damn well wasn't the best way to survive, not even in the kinder, gentler army. None of us can believe it when I finish basic combat training in the prescribed 10 weeks. I was going to read till the end of the chapter, but I just decided not to. I'm not going to spoiler that shit for you. How's everyone doing out there? I'm going to imagine like poet snaps. I'm going to imagine voices murmuring appreciatively. That's what I imagine you're doing out there. Live streaming so weird, y'all. Yeah. So that was the first bit. There was a lot of information in there. I refer to reform school. Some people know about that. You'll know a lot more about it when you get done reading. Um, and yeah, so that was just a little chunk of basic training, and I think that you know I think out over time I'm going to get more and more used to reading this. um, Thank you. Oh, thank you for those of you who are dropping comments, letting me know you're out there. I really appreciate it. Thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Um, I am enjoying this as well. And yeah, as I get more and more used to reading, I feel like you know maybe it will eventually get more. I don't know. Maybe I won't feel all of this all every time, but um, right now, yeah, I feel like it's still very fresh. It's been 20 years now since I went to basic training, since I learned that specific lesson. And and wow, right? Like 20 damn years and it still feels like yesterday. So, um this next bit, I decided if I'm going to, yeah, I think I'm going to read this whole chapter for you. Thank you. Thank you, friends. Uh, man, yeah, this is what I needed. in my life. I'm happy to be able to share my stories with my friends and with anybody else who needs them in their lives. Maybe not. Now this is out there, right? Like I can't take it back. I can't edit it anymore. I can't say like nuh-uh. I can't pretend I didn't do any of this ever again. And when I get old and lose my memory from smoking all the weed that I smoke, so that I can deal with my post traumatic stress, you all can remind me of it and be like, "Hey, you wrote a book about this. You don't need to forget these things." Crazy. Wow. Um, yeah. If anybody has, or actually, what do y'all think? Should I keep reading now, or should we do questions after each? Let's wait till the end. I'll do stuff that way. You'll know what I'm going to say already. This is the chapter called Freedom Rest. Anybody out there who was in the army in Iraq during the time, I'm not sure how long. I guess Freedom Rest probably stayed there until we cleared out. But anybody who has been to Freedom Rest, it was an experience that a lot of us had. It was very surreal, and this chapter is devoted to that specific surreal experience. If you ever suspect you have a strong personal moral code, here's how to know for sure. Devote a hefty chunk of your time and energy to the production of morale boosting half truths about a war in which you and your friends are currently endangered. If, when bending that moral code into complex knots in an effort to keep your personal self out of trouble and appease your superiors, you still feel remotely guilty about it, congratulations. There's still a tiny part of you that knows the difference between right and wrong. But don't worry, over time, you'll acquire a special flair for deadening that guilt with copious amounts of alcohol, even if it's prohibited, especially if it's prohibited. Compared to spinning a questionably motivated quagmire of a war into an optimistic peace process, sneaking a bottle here or there will feel like the least of your crimes. I've already spent the better or worse part of 12 months in Iraq as part of what I have come to recognize as an illegally invading force. I have no idea whether I'll make it home alive, but then self-preservation isn't my strongest instinct. Not that keeping soldiers alive seems to be a priority for Commander in Chief Bush or Vice President Dick or any of the other politicians who sent us all here. Nobody complains except in the way that everyone complains. We know what we signed up for, as our superiors are fond of reminding us, though I'm never sure I believe them. It's not like this is a typical war. We aren't fighting an opposing military. This is the war on terror. Anybody could be a bad guy, maybe even us. When we showed up in Iraq back in January, we were greeted with a multitude of briefings: how to evade enemy capture, how to duck behind concrete barriers in case of incoming mortar fire, how to say stop or I'll shoot in sounds that resemble Arabic, but no information about when or how our engagement in Baghdad would end. This deployment is supposed to last a year, after which another division will come and take over. These rotations, we're told, will continue until the mission is accomplished. But Bush already declared the mission accomplished a year and a half ago, standing on an aircraft carrier in a flight suit, and there is still no end to deployment rotations in sight. Most of us lowly enlistees haven't finished college, but it doesn't require a degree to receive a loud and clear message transmitted via a constant barrage of rocket attacks and improvised roadside bombs. The Iraqis are not liberated, and the war is not won. In light of this development, we on the Task Force Baghdad Public Affairs team have been directed to refer to the occupation as a reconstruction. My title in the reconstruction, Public Affairs Specialist, could have easily been discarded in favor of the snappier propagandist. I'm deployed to Baghdad to help collect information and mold it into palatable portions of digestible fact sausage, mashing carefully chosen details together to create newsy looking articles to remind soldiers that we are the good guys and we are winning. The public affairs team's mission is simple: amplify positive news, downplay or ignore negative news. Conveniently, neither of these tactics can be legally defined as lying. If there's anything remotely victorious to report, we send out a press release, splash it across every military newspaper and TV broadcast, print it on high gloss cardstock, and make it as glaringly ubiquitous as possible. The rest of the time, we are in damage control mode. The Army calls us journalists. My new friend Anna and I both enlisted as teenagers. We're now in our early 20s. While friends in our respective hometowns in Northern California and upstate New York are finishing college and reoccupying their parents' houses, we have been occupying the explosively shocked and awed nation of Iraq. Just a quick note. I put it in the beginning of the book, but I'm going to just say it now. Um, I've changed a lot of the names here, so if because I don't know that everybody wants to be part of my story who's in it. If you are, and you're mad that I changed your name, I'm sorry. Maybe the next edition will will fix it or something. But anyway, okay, back to the flow. Ah, the word interrogation has developed a negative connotation in the media. So Anna's job description is officially intelligence gathering. Once she finds out which, if any, of the coalition's Iraqi prisoners have actually uh, committed any crimes, her superior officers can more accurately determine which details of their arrests to conceal. As it turns out, she tells me, few of the people who are dragged in, blindfolded and zip tied by US troops, hold any major role in resisting our occupation of their country or control of their government. Our public affairs team has been instructed to call them all insurgents. When I look up the definition of insurgent, I find the answer, a rebel or revolutionary, vague enough to be deemed not incorrect, and mentally put the matter to rest. We already call prisoners detainees, and the occupation reconstruction, and the war itself a peacekeeping mission. The leap from individual, possibly loosely affiliated with various groups who oppose the US-led coalition and its handpicked Iraqi government to insurgent is more like a hop, maybe even a shuffle. If we get blown up here, how do you think your office will spin it? Anna's voice jerks my attention back to the mission at hand. Probably the way we do all the other deaths by stupidity. Call it non combat related. That's what we do for the Huffers. Soldiers have been incessantly warned not to huff dust off, but for some, it's still an all too tempting crutch in the absence of alcohol. Same thing for the suicides. I guess that's technically true. Oh shit, we're stopping. This must be the place. The up armored SUV idles as the driver speaks to us in a low voice, making eye contact through the rearview mirror to avoid turning his head. We're going in, he says, tilting his head at the other soldier in the front of the truck. You two have to stay hidden back there, okay? Otherwise, we could all be in deep shit. We nod. Okay, we'll be right back. What did you want again? Vodka, we whisper in unison. Got it. We'll be quick. They slam the massive armored doors behind them and disappear into the lit up door of a small shop. I turn to Anna. I don't think I've been this nervous about a liquor run since I was underage. Oh man, me either. Just stay down. The September sun set over Baghdad an hour or so ago in its usual flamboyant way, with complete disregard to the chaotic city darkening beneath it. Sleek black helicopters, owned by aptly named private security contractor Blackwater, buzzed overhead alongside the Apache, Blackhawk, and Chinook helicopters making their obnoxious laps through the sky. We lounged by the pool, tuning them out. This luxurious haven, now enclosed within concrete barriers, was Saddam Hussein's Republican Guard Officers Club not so long ago, complete with clean, spacious rooms and a massive kidney shaped pool just outside the glass doors of the lower lobby, through ornate arches and columns. Now Saddam has been in jail for 2 years, and his posh patio hosts U.S. soldiers with cracking skin and uniform sleeve tans, all dressed in swimsuits or crumpled civilian clothes from the bellies of dusty duffel bags. Soldiers who shriek with childlike glee as we leap from 15 and 30-foot high dives into waters once tread by the Ba'ath regime's upper echelons. Freedom Rest, an oasis in the center of the Iraqi capital, helps soldiers escape the stress of life on the front lines of war, reads the description posted on the official Freedom Rest website. There, they can strip away their body armor, lock up their weapons, and enjoy time off without leaving the theater of operations. There's no mention of the compound's prior clientele, but it's clear this place was not built for public use, and we all know there's no money without political clout in Baghdad. Dude, I bet Saddam beat in this pool, we joked to each other at orientation. Peeling off my body armor and desert camouflage uniform was like shedding a layer of unwanted skin. After 9 months deployed, I've lost 15 pounds and none of my civvies fit, but there's a tiny cash only bazaar run by a few Iraqis. They sell me white short shorts, a fitted black tank top, a lime green thigh grazing dress decorated with shiny, unnecessary sequins. It's almost enough to make me feel like a girl again. I've gone without any feminine effects beyond a looser than average hair bun for so long that the simple act of putting on a dress felt even less familiar than the Iraqis who sold it to me. Local nationals, we call the Iraqis when we're being polite. They run bazaars at at all of the forward operating bases. When they aren't in earshot, we just call them all Haji, a word that is only supposed to be used with reverence and in reference to Muslims who've made the Hajj or pilgrimage to Mecca. Then we soldiers strode in and slapped it on anyone who looked local. We're all used to each other by now. At least, according to my estimate, they're used to our money and we're used to having stuff to buy. I figure handing them American dollars is the least I can do as a newly guilt ridden foreign invader. I'm sorry for occupying your country, I always add silently as I press my money into their open palms, wondering how much they hate us all under those effusive smiles. We were ordered to hand over our weapons to be locked up on arrival at the hotel compound, and ever since, I've been unable to fully shake the feeling I'm forgetting something. I'm used to carrying my weapon at all times. It's my third limb. But they locked our rifles away and instructed us to relax. After all, they said, this was freedom rest, as though along with the freedom to rest comes the ability to actually do it. Still, the United States went to the trouble of taking over the place, so I might as well give relaxation my best shot. But there's one crucial ingredient missing, and without it, no hope of any real rest. It's too bad we don't have anything to drink, Anna had sighed. We learned each other's first names just a few hours ago. After changing out of our uniforms into bikinis, using last names felt comically formal. The syllables hung in the air like a bow tie on a puppy. I nodded my agreement about the alcohol situation. It's already been a long, dry deployment with 3 months left to go. I don't know why they can't let us drink here. It's not like we're working or driving anywhere. We rode here in a convoy from Camp Liberty and were dropped off with no way of safely leaving the grounds. The fancy buildings and pristine pool, graying in the twilight, were surrounded by towering concrete blast walls. Even if leaving the relative security of the compound was allowed, we had no vehicle but our own feet. They treat us like children, I grumbled. Right? And we're like in a war. The army hadn't trained the California out of her. How can I interrogate detainees, but I can't have a beer? Who even knows? I have no idea how drinking could be worse for your health than a job at Abu Ghraib. Goddamn General Order number one. We've heard that in the old army, generally understood as the days when drill sergeants were allowed to strike privates, cigarettes came in prepackaged meals, and misogyny was more overt. Soldiers had been permitted to drink during deployments while off duty. But this is the new army, and the new army has new general orders to govern soldiers' personal lives while at war. General Order number one rules out drinking, drugs, and a colorful variety of other sins like possessing or distributing porn or privately owned firearms or entering a mosque if you're not Muslim. Like all rules, this general order has a tendency to be broken with varying degrees of skill. Maybe one of these guys has something. Anna's eyes wandered around the pool. What do you think? I don't really want to ask them any favors. We're two of only four women in a group of dozens of soldiers sent off for a few days of R&R in the middle of a year-long deployment, and it's best to avoid asking anything of any of the men here. Not that we can fault them. Considering the reason we're all in Baghdad in the first place, it's no wonder they consider any opportunity for conversation an open invitation to invade and occupy our space. As the sun sank out of sight, I leaned back in my chair and lit a cigarette. We'll figure it out. Jumping out of the SUV back at the compound, bottle in hand, I realize I feel more tense by the pool than I did in the truck. As I thank our driver, a visiting soldier from a nearby base who is now due back at work, my lips are smiling, but my shoulders are stiff. Am I really more prepared to die in this pointless war than to take a 4-day break from it? We decide to mix the booze our new friends helped us acquire with Red Bull from the Freedom Rest dining facility to make it last longer. The summer heat that oppressed us all day is welcome now that the sun has set. We retreat to a dark corner of the poolside patio with newly concocted cocktails in Gatorade bottles. No ice, or we'll give ourselves away. I can almost convince myself this is a real vacation. The pool area is impressive, after all, and there are those huge high dives. I jumped off the middle one earlier, a 15-foot plunge, but haven't dared the 30-footer yet. We've been told to stay off it while the platform is being repaired. It's made of concrete, but the astroturf and wooden boards on top have been ripped up. The platform itself is functional as long as you don't mind stepping in some dirt and watching for nails, but the Freedom Rest staff insist it's off limits. For thrill seeking soldiers, that only makes it more alluring, though nobody would dare defy the order in broad daylight. But now it's dark. A couple of hours worth of strong Red Bull vodkas later, Anna and the two self appointed male bodyguards from our unit who've been granted drinks of their own, despite not having joined us for the liquor mission, place loud, boozy bets on who will be first to jump off the high dive. The deep end of the pool is unlit, ensuring that the jumper won't be seen. It also means that whoever takes the 30-foot plunge will be leaping into total darkness. The vodka blurs the minutes between accepting the challenge and executing it. Now I'm on the edge of the board, squinting down into what may as well be a bottomless abyss. There's still time to turn around, climb down, laugh it off. I glance back down at the blank space below me. A thought emerges from the caffeinated cocktail haze in my brain. This is a spectacularly bad idea. I jump. The drop is silent and the water invisible until I hit it. I know it's water, but if I'm going by the tactile experience, it might as well be a slab of concrete. Unthinking, I've bent my knees in midair, and instead of slicing into the pool, toes first, my thighs meet the surface with a resounding slap. The pain finally registers when I pull myself out of the water, suddenly stone cold sober. I wrap myself in a towel and examine my already bruising legs, contemplating for the first time with a clear head just how badly this might have gone. One wrong step, and it could have been my demise, categorized by a check in the non-combat related column, as though they aren't all combat related, as though we came here for fun, for rest, for freedom. How, thank you for listening to that. um, I really appreciate you all being here. Um, and yeah, um, oh, thank you, snaps. Oh, thank you. It's really lovely to see y'all in the comments. I'm imagining you sitting here in my living room, and yeah. Oh, thank you so much. Um, it means so much to me that you all are doing this with an hour of your Friday, and that you're listening and that you're hearing. These are stories that people have been asking me not to specifically tell, but have been asking me questions over the years that have inspired me to write these stories this way. Because a lot of I do a lot of ranting, right? I do a lot of let me just tell you what I think about the thing that is going to make you uncomfortable, and you know, I feel like there is a time and a place for that. I'm not like mad. I'm not sorry. I'm fine with making people uncomfortable for the right reasons. And it's up to me to decide what the right reasons are for me. So I appreciate that enough of you agree that you're here, and I hope that this is answering some of the questions that some of you have asked over the years. um yeah, so yeah, thank you. Oh, yes, and yes, as for timing, thank you. I felt like this, especially now that we are getting kind of dragged into more wars and more parts of the world. Constantly we're being sucked into, foreign aggression, into the idea of, arming one nation against another nation, and essentially fighting proxy wars everywhere, that we aren't actually fighting wars. Um, as I've been like workshopping this book and editing it and getting it all ready, like it's really just reminded me that, like, this is a cycle that we're in. This is a pattern. It doesn't stop unless we choose to stop it. Um, let's see. Um, actually, I've got about a little less than 20 minutes left. So why don't I? If any of you have questions, I see there's one there. If you have questions or other comments, feel free to drop them in the chat there, and I will get to them one by one. Um, and if you don't have any questions and just want to, I don't know, like drop a freaking emoji or whatever, that's also great. Um, it's the next best thing to being in person. And yeah, so let's see. I saw a question right here from Jeff. Oh, did I ever have any private conversations with Iraqi women? Um, I didn't have private conversations with Iraqi women. There were a couple of Iraqi women who worked for us as contractors, um, but I did not have um, really critical conversations with them. Um, it's interesting to me as I've been working on writing all of these um, experiences out and reflecting on them. It's interesting to me how, even though I was very critical of what we were doing in Iraq while I was there, I still, and even though I ostensibly, wanted to be a journalist, I wasn't actually, being very investigative. I wasn't using a lot of the resources that I had to like actually, ask Iraqis how they felt. I was kind of drawing my own conclusions, and observing, um, but I wasn't asking questions of local people the way I did when I came back, or the way I attempted to, reach out to Iraqis that I met when I got back. So, short answer is no, but long answer is I wish I had, and I feel kind of silly for not having done so. Um, let's see. Uh, Julia, did many people in my unit have the same skepticism about why we were there? In the public affairs section, you know, that we were like a very like small sort of office essentially in the headquarters, and so there was just like a few of us, and we we had conversations at times about the situation. A couple people had a lot of skepticism. A couple people were very like overtly skeptical and overtly like, "Oh my god, this is bullshit, and it's always been bullshit. Holy fuck!" But here we are doing it anyway, and the army is treating us like shit. Um, I know there was one person in my section who, um, actually had joined in many ways to be a war reporter and did a better job of it than I did. Went in more critical than I went in, and he actually um, wrote a really great. I think he just published a photography book. Um, he's an excellent photographer, Ben Brody. You should check out his work. Um, he was always critical. He's one of the ones. There were a few other folks that were always critical of the the war, the mission, the military, but not in a not an overtly political way. We definitely got into some heated political debates in our section because some people were on board with the mission. Some people thought we were doing the right thing. The military, unlike our government would have you believe, like every veteran isn't of the same mind, right? Like soldiers aren't, the military isn't a monolith. It's populated by people who either joined for, very misguided patriotic reasons, or who needed the money, needed college money, needed some kind of work experience, or avoiding jail. All these different reasons. Some people joined as a path to citizenship. Some people join because they're just bored. I don't know. Like there are so many different types of soldiers. I can't speak for the other branches of service. There's so many different types of soldiers, who all have different ideas about the military, about the army. The one thing we can all agree on, though, usually, 99.9% of the time, is that the military eventually fucks everyone, um, somehow, some way. You will be fucked. and and so with that lens, for me, it was a really easy jump. I mean, it was not a emotionally or psychologically easy jump, but it was like a logically easy jump to well, if the army fucks us who are in it, what are we doing to everyone else? If the army is fucking the good guys, um, what is it doing to the rest of the world? And so yeah, that that was an ongoing conversation, and I think also back then, I was in the military when George W. Bush was the president. For the whole time I was in the military, so it was a very it was fine to be critical of Bush. Like most of us were not a fan of him. Even the people who considered themselves Republicans were not fans of Bush for the most part. There were some who were, and I did not understand them. uh, but yeah, I think that we all expressed our critiques in different ways. So um, thanks for asking that question. Um, Thanks, Jeff. I'm glad you. Yeah. Oh, I'm really glad. How many other veterans are out there? I know there's at least a couple. Um, if you are, if you wanna drop like any information about your, like when you were in, where you were. Um, Fantastic. So we've got Navy represented. We've got Army. Let's see. I don't know who else everyone is out there, but um, yeah, I mean, I think across the whole military, the thing that the thing that is really downplayed when you're being recruited, I think everyone in the military can attest to this, is that when you get in, once you're in, if you don't like it, you can't quit um, at all. You can go to jail. I mean, you can quit if you are willing to go the conscientious objector route. Okay, Air Force. You can quit if you were, wow, so we've got Army, Navy, Air Force. Any Marines? I know it was just y'all's birthday yesterday. Um, you have any coasties out in the house? Um, yeah, so the thing that you realize is like you can go the conscientious objector status route, which is an extremely long and convoluted um, um, process. You can go AWOL. You can desert. You can go, you can do any number of things. They're all going to have different impacts on your life, right? So, and the way that the military really discourages people from doing that is by penalizing. You can, if you get out of the military under anything other than an honorable um, discharge, then you can be denied the incentives that you're promised. People call them benefits. I call them incentives. We wouldn't have joined without them for the most part. Some people maybe would have. It would be a very, very small military um, if the only people who joined were, the ones who the ones who really, 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 really just wanted to be a soldier and get paid what, like 215 an hour, I think is what I calculated it to when we were deployed. Because you're on duty 24 hours a day. A $26,000 a year job is one thing when you're home and you can, when you're off work, you're off work. But in the army, you're just there. They own you the whole day and the whole night. So let me check back in the comments. So we've got a Desert Storm Air Force. We've got Navy. We've got a Vietnam Army vet, and we've got, okay. Yeah, who doesn't launch the ICBMs? Nice. Nice. Fantastic, Glenn. That's that's the real service. That's the real service. I feel like the real service is finding a way to not be in the military if possible. You know, I know people get very sensitive about that, especially today, Veterans Day. But we need to stop being freaking sensitive about that. Like we were deceived. We were programmed by the military, and there's no shame in acknowledging that we were programmed and that we have to deprogram ourselves. Writing this book helped me a lot with that process. Um, do we have any more questions, or should I read just a tiny bit more? I'm going to sign off at the top of the hour because I have a commitment to go and do tonight. Um, but I really wanted to make this happen today. Read more. Okay, read more. I'll read a little bit more, and then I will thank you all for being here. Thank you. Just thank you all for being here. I kind of, yeah, I still can't believe this is actually a real thing. Wow. Um, let's see. I put a bookmark in a spot, but um, I changed my mind about the spot. Uh-huh. Thank you. Thank you so much. I just, oh my God. I just wanna say, like, as I was writing this, I was like, "Maybe nobody will read it. Maybe nobody will like it. Maybe it will not be what I want it to be, and it won't be what anybody else wants it to be, but I have to do this." I told myself when I got out of the army that I would do this, that I would write a book about that whole fucked up situation, and, um, as all the years went by without it existing, I kept feeling like I just needed to do it, and, if it sells a lot, fucking great, like, if it helps anybody, awesome, but, I really I say this with all the love in the world, I did this for me to remind myself that this is a real thing that I experienced so that it doesn't become, you know, a past that I can't access. I have to learn from it, or else what was the point? All right, this is from the second to last chapter or so. Second to last chapter. Yeah, it's from the chapter called Army Dumb. The mission I chose to accept as a naive 19-year-old has grown, like the deployment itself, less bearable the better I've gotten to know it. My job is officially to tell the Army's story of the coalition's victorious liberation of Iraq. After two trips to Baghdad, where the US is quote unquote fighting its enemies by throwing money and weapons at certain militias and tribes while confiscating it from others, I'm finding it increasingly challenging to see anything victorious about the Army's story or anything liberated about the Iraqis. Every time I visit a neighborhood or rural community to document its dubitable safety and minimal services, the only local residents I see in a remotely unsuspicious mood are young children and members of the newly minted Iraqi security forces. The US led occupation, or reconstruction, depending on which media outlet is talking about it, is in its fifth year, and still there's no sign of regular electricity, water, sewage treatment, healthcare, or education for millions of Iraqis, despite the gallons of dollars gushing out of the Department of Defense into the waiting hands of military contractors, ostensibly for this purpose. On Camp Victory, expressions are undeniably grim. I'm one of many who have been stop lost as it's come to be verbed, but by our 14th month in country, even those who knew they'd deploy all along wear scowls more or less permanently affixed to their faces. The only sincere smile I've seen in months was on the recently promoted Sergeant Melee, an old buddy from my first deployment. I bumped directly into him on my way to cover a joint Iraqi US patrol out of Forward Operating Base Falcon. When he recognized me, he grinned. Dude, Melee, it's been a long time. Like 2 years, right? Dude, but I'm finally working in my job. No more fucking headquarters hell. Nice. No more desk job. Fuck no. Now I go out on patrol every day like I'm supposed to. We worked in the headquarters together for the full year of our first deployment and complained together over many a smoke break. He was trained as a combat engineer, but had then been stuck in admin due to a personnel shortage in admin and an overabundance of combat engineers. Typical soldier, he's happier the more danger he's in. I caught myself thinking smirkily before remembering I wouldn't be talking to him if I, too, hadn't been aching to escape the headquarters' relatively safe monotony, not counting sporadic explosions of indirect fire, along with a successive population of generals and officers who wanted to be generals. Melee's smile was infectious. He always was an upbeat kind of guy. I'd forgotten. Headquarters had a way of sucking the upbeat right out of a person. I couldn't help but return his grin. Well, shit, dude. It's great you're happy. I really am. We caught up a bit more before we both had other places to be. He was still married, he told me with understandable relief, with a stepdaughter just graduated from preschool. I told him about my impending divorce and shady stop loss situation. He shook his head. Man, they really fucked you. Don't I know it? Well, it is the army way. Yep, we all get fucked some way, somehow. Right in the ass. I'm just glad it's not happening to me right now. We said our goodbyes, and I headed off to meet up with the unit I was joining on patrol that afternoon. Other than a few minor details, I already knew what my article would say. The headline would be simple: U.S. Iraqi Joint Patrol keeps name of Baghdad neighborhood safe. I'd include quotes from soldiers and Iraqi police about how well the mission was going, snap a few photos of everyone in uniform interacting with the locals, and come up with as many ways as possible to say nothing about the apparent ineptitude of the Iraqi security forces, made up entirely of poor farmers and villagers with no better options. I knew better by now than to even allude to the general concept of failure in print, since the chief of staff had expressly forbidden use of the word. But still, oops, alarm, I lose track of time. But still, sorry about that. I knew better than by now than to even allude to the general concept of failure in print, since the chief of staff had expressly forbidden use of the word. But still, everywhere I look, there's failure. As far as I can tell, 5 years after the surgical strikes, airstrikes, flashily nicknamed "shock and awe," leveled the nation's cities, government, and infrastructure. Our presence in Iraq is a clear indicator that if an exit strategy ever existed here, it has to have gone horribly awry. Either that, or I shudder at the thought that I don't want to believe this whole debacle could be intentional. We might have made a huge mess here, but we got the evil dictator out, right? I'm woefully uneducated when it comes to foreign policy, but everything I've absorbed throughout my short life has told me that evil dictators must be toppled and the USA is the good guy. The Army calls me a journalist, but by the time I finish writing what I'm told, I don't have enough investigative energy left to ask the one question that's been bubbling beneath my consciousness. If US soldiers are the good guys, heroes even, but the military still treats us like disposable property, why would anyone who isn't us in this country be treated any better? Civilian reporters compare the conflict in Iraq to Vietnam, and all I have to do is look around to see that they must be right. But surely that's only an unfortunate accident, I tell myself. One nobody could have seen coming. True, our current mission looks a lot more like damage control than like any kind of intentional plan, but would the generals really have agreed to invade Iraq, costing the lives of thousands of US soldiers and potentially millions of Iraqi civilians without at least believing those lives wouldn't be lost in vain? Watching Baghdad pass by through Humvee windows, I keep an eye out for roadside bombs and suspicious characters, up to and including children, and try not to hear the voice in the back of my head gently whispering the answer I don't want to acknowledge. The truth finally pushes its way through my mental barricades a few weeks later. It's a week after my birthday, and I'm in better spirits than usual after receiving care packages containing cartons of cigarettes that weren't all stale, like the ones at the post exchange. On my way out of the headquarters to the smoking area, I'm nearly toppled by a soldier hurrying into the building with his head pointed non tactically downward. Hey, watch where you're going, I blurt without thinking, crossing my fingers that I haven't just admonished an officer or NCO, either of whom would feel entitled to not only bowl over junior enlisted soldiers, but blame us for it. Luckily, when he turns around to mumble an apology, I see the downturned face is a familiar one. Another admin lackey who enlisted as an engineer but found himself stuck in the headquarters. Stack, what's up? You almost knocked me over. Hey, dude, I'm sorry. I wasn't looking where I was going. Now that I can see his face, I notice his typical expression of annoyance is gone, replaced with one of sadness. I haven't seen a fully realized emotion other than rage or disgust in months, so can't be sure, but I figure it has to be either that or constipation. Are you okay? Is that a tear in his eye? Oh, dude, you haven't heard. Heard what? He motions me out of the doorway and back into the headquarters. I follow him to a quiet corner just past the front doors. On one of the walls hangs a 60-inch LCD monitor. The commanding general has designated it for the explicit purpose of displaying a slideshow featuring names, photos, and pertinent details of every soldier who's been killed in action during this deployment. Usually, there are at least a few soldiers milling around the area, either staring solemnly at the screen or casually ignoring it. But today it's empty except for Stack and me. He takes a deep breath and meets my eyes. It's Melee. Oh, fuck. No. He's dead. Fuck. An IED. God damn it. An improvised explosive device. One of the ubiquitous enemy's preferred weapons. I feel the lump in my throat rise before I could stop it. There's no crying in the headquarters. Before the tears can pour, I choke them back, instead emitting a second, more forceful, God damn it! Yeah, dude, I know. Fuck! I just saw him a few weeks ago at Fob Falcon. It happened last week. Reflexively, my head turns to the screen on the wall next to us, where faces, names, birth and death dates scroll on a perpetual loop. I can't believe it's true until I see that official photo in front of me, dates perfectly aligned beside it, all hovering above the animated American flag, waving patriotically in the background. Stack catches the direction of my gaze. He's not up there yet. I refuse to let the tears emerge. This is bullshit. I know, dude. I know. He was my best friend. We just bought houses on the same street. Fuck. Heaving a sigh, he straightens his back. I gotta get to work. I'll let you know when they're doing the memorial service. All right, buddy. Thanks for telling me. Yeah, of course. My feet feel nailed to the floor. I stare blank eyed at the screen, still flipping through slide after slide, bearing face after face of dead soldiers, dead battle buddies, dead best friends, dead teenagers. What is the fucking point of this? What is the fucking point? Nobody is winning here. So, why not end on an up note, right? Thank you for listening, all of you who are still here. Thank you so much. Um, I've never read that story out loud to anyone, so um, there's something about that you know, I just want us all to be thinking about these things. Um, because we need to, not just because I'm always thinking about them, even though, misery loves company, as they say, um, but because I don't want more people to fucking die for these bullshit reasons. I don't want more people to have to live the rest of their lives never being able to feel normal or okay because they were deceived into doing something that they thought was a service. So, um, I have to go this evening. If you have enjoyed what you have heard and don't have the book yet, you can order it. There's a link on my website, joydamiani.com. And I'm pretty sure there's a link in the description here of this video. If not, then I will put one. But you can also just Google it, or whatever non-tracking search engine you use. I use DuckDuckGo. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what kind of life this book is going to have, but plan to I plan to provide it to whoever wants it. If you want a copy and can't afford it, fucking let me know. I will send you a PDF version or an ebook. I may even be able to send you a paperback copy. And yes, thanks, Glenn, for reminding me. You can have your library order it. We've got a barcode and everything, so you can do that. And if you are a Kickstarter backer uh, and you signed up for a book reward, it will be to you soon. soon, soon. So thank you so much, everyone. Happy Armistice Day. Um, it means so much to me to have had you here, to have been able to share this with you. And yeah, let me know what you think. If you have the ebook already, I'm happy to. I want to hear what you think. Um, and yeah, I'm gonna stop uh, before I go way over my prescribed deadline. This is me being strict with myself. Thank you all. Um, and I'll do an in-person event at some point soon. And maybe there will be music and other people reading at it. That would be nice. I will keep you all posted. Thank you so much. Have a safe and, enjoyable weekend. And just, don't let the apocalypse get you down. And I will see you soon, I'm sure. Oh, and if you want to check out our podcast that Sarah Baranowskis and I do, we're going to be getting back to that soon. It's called What the Folk, whatthefolkpod.com. It's on all of the streaming platforms, so you can subscribe to it and you'll get notifications when we put new stuff up. But I did a whole conversation with her and our last episode that we recorded, which is called Joy Wrote a Book. And we talk about this and we talk about a lot of my process and all that other stuff. So if you want to know more, if you're just not tired of hearing my dang voice, then you can check that out. So thank you so much, everyone. Good night, and sending so much love out to all of you. Thanks for making me feel heard.